take the asks from our presenter, and we're going to break our community out into breakout groups. Each group is going to be addressing one of those asks, and then we'll come back, pose the questions to our presenter, and then once we've gone around a couple of times, we'll then do a more open Q&A. At the end of our meeting, if we have extra time, we would like our presenter to stay a little bit longer and kind of do a more open chat around the virtual coffee pot, if you will. We'd love for our community to get involved with 1 Million Cups. There's several ways that you can do that. The first is you could become an organizer, which is you help us connect and build our startup community by becoming a member of the organizing team. Now, there's many members of the organizing team here on the call. There's myself, Terry, George, Frank. Can't see anybody else in my Brady Bunch boxes right now, but if you're interested in becoming an organizer, reach out to any of us and we'd be glad to help you along with more information about that process. The second thing you can do is you can apply to present. So if you have a company or an organization that you think would benefit from presenting at 1 Million Cups, please go to our website at www.1millioncups.com/RTP and apply to present. There's an apply to present button right at the top of the homepage of our website. You just click that button, answer a couple of questions. Our intake coordinator, Tracy, will be notified and she will get in touch with you to walk you through the rest of the application process at that point. Another thing you can do is you can help us by referring a presenter. So if you don't have a company, but you do know somebody who is an entrepreneur with a startup company, please let them know that we're here to help. Invite them to a meeting or invite them to apply to present, and we'll invite them to a meeting. But people can't get help from us. People don't know that we're here to give support if they don't know that we exist. So please spread the word. And the last thing you can do is what you're doing today, which is attend our meetings and give excellent feedback to our presenters. We appreciate you doing that. I want to thank our community organizers. There's a number of us. We've got Tracy Ames, who I mentioned before is our intake coordinator, Frank Pollock, myself, and Rosalinda Cruz. We have Terry Conlon and George Stewart, who are on the call today, Jenny Midgley, Dan Hepworth, and then our past lead organizer and ambassador, Krista Johnson Sotomayor. Also want to thank our community sponsors, Muddy Dog Roasting Company, the Global Training Initiative, NC IDEA, American Underground, the Imperative Product Operations Company, the Massapequa Tutor, Soto IP, and New York Life. I want to introduce today's presenter. We have from Clever Education Solutions, Dominique Mouthon. Dominique, I'm going to go ahead and stop my share screen and let you take it from here. Go ahead and unmute yourself, Dominique.
Yes, sorry. Thank you for the introduction. Let me share my screen. Okay. Make sure that everything works. Properly.
Looks good.
Looks good. Excellent. So I will start. Hello, everyone. My name is Dominique Mouthon. I'm a co-founder and CEO of Clever Education Solutions. I'm here today to seek your guidance on marketing and selling more effectively. Also on how to identify funding opportunities to allow our company to grow. And last but not least, to critique my presentation in view of my pitching to CED Venture Connect next month. Many of today's entrepreneurs, pioneers, and influencers like Jeff Bezos, the Google founders, Julia Child, or Seth Curry, recognize the influence of their Montessori education on their adult life. So we are freeing up time for Montessori schools to mold the entrepreneurs and influencers of tomorrow by building a modular, integrated, Montessori-specific software solution. Our team has several lifetimes of experience. I myself am a former Montessori teacher and head of school. There's a Montessori alumna who is a database administrator and with whom I worked for 7 years. There are also 2 Montessori dads. One who is a software engineer with EdTech experience and a business operations professional, both of them with previous entrepreneurial successful experience. Current EdTech software do not fit the Montessori model. As schools grow and their operations become more complex, administrations find themselves swamped by uncoordinated IT tools. Data is on multiple platforms and it's a nightmare. So many of the Montessori administrators and teachers we've talked to feel frustrated by this situation. And I know that frustration too well because I've lived it in my 20+ year Montessori career. So our product is a modular single sign-on system built with Montessori-specific features from its inception. Administrators, teachers, and parents work from one central source of data. The biggest benefit of our system is the integration of the modules, providing administrative efficiency and time saving for teachers. Time that will be spending with their students, because Montessori teachers give individualized lessons based on each student's skill level and interest. So teachers spend a lot of time planning and recording lessons. Over the past 12 years, there has been a 5% annual growth average of the Montessori movement worldwide, and in the US, especially in magnet and charter schools, in addition to private schools. There's also been corporate efforts to provide Montessori daycares to employees, such as CA Technologies and here in RTP, Bandwidth. So our competition comprises some suite-like products which cover the administrative functions, but not a Montessori learning management system. There are other products with varying levels of integration, but still no Montessori-specific LMS. And finally, there are a few Montessori-specific LMS options. However, those do not provide administrative tools in the extent that we are planning. Our revenue model is a per student per month subscription for all the modules except for the admission module that will be an annual flat fee. And it positions us with current market pricing. Our marketing approach is multi-pronged. In our Montessori circles, word of mouth is a huge factor. So we are using my professional network plus the network from the MVP users that we have. We are also exhibiting at national Montessori conferences in February and in March, and advertising on national organization website. We are using email campaigns and developing our online presence using content marketing. Since our incorporation a year ago, we wrote a business plan, business canvas, and financial pro forma. We grew our online presence and database. We have participated in the CED Growth program and received a micro grant from NCIDR. We are currently launching our MVP in 3 schools that are committed to using it. Between now and the start of next school year, we will incorporate their feedback and improve the MVP. For the start of the 21-22 school year, we will bring on board 10 additional paying schools, then add 5 more in January 2022. And at the start of the 22-23 school year, we'll have a total of 43 schools with an average of 50 students each. Our objective is to reach profitability in fiscal year 25 and evaluation for potential exit in fiscal year 28. And to bring our entire vision to reality, we need $720,000. So far, we have raised $72,000, leaving us to raise the rest. We are expanding our friends and family network for fiscal year 21, and we'll be seeking investments from the investor community in fiscal year 22.
Hey, Dominique, we're at 6 minutes, so perfect. You're at your last one.
So today I welcome your critique of the presentation and your guidance to market and sell more effectively. And I appreciate your attention and interest. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Dominique. We're going to go to breakout rooms. I've got 5 breakout rooms identified. If you wish to switch breakout rooms, if I put you in one that isn't appropriate for you, if you have the breakout room tool at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you can switch yourself. Otherwise, we'll see you back here in 5 minutes. The 5 groups are, we have 2 groups on pitch perfection, because that's Dominique's biggest challenge right now. One on go-to-market strategy, one on funding, and then, as usual, one on other ideas. So we'll see you all back here in 5 minutes. So Dominique, you and I are staying here.
Okay, excellent.
There we go. So everybody else is disappeared.
It's quite a management that from a technical standpoint, all those breakout rooms.
It's getting easier. The first time we did it, it was, well, I guess like everything else, right? You get used to it. And it's been almost a year now that we've been online. We were online back in March, before the end of March. We did our first online. We used my personal Zoom account because the Kauffman Foundation didn't have Zoom accounts at the time. But we were very quick to go online, and I think because of that, we've managed to maintain a pretty consistent audience.
Yes, that's great.
Yeah.
So, do you mind if I take a sip of water?
Absolutely.
Thank you. All right.
I should probably tell people who I am.
All right.
So what's next? What's next for you? What are you going to do between now and your CED presentation?
Oh, we have those 2 national conferences. One is actually this weekend. So we have a booth, and we're trying to. There's 1,500 attendees. It's the Montessori organization of the United States, so AMI USA. And in March we have another one. So we'll be busy with that, and we're also launching the onboarding, those 3 schools with our MVP. So we won't be bored.
So what? I'm curious. We didn't talk about this before. What is the educational support component of your offering?
Well, I would like to provide, some Montessori assistance and, best practices and supporting teachers and heads of schools. But, I haven't really had the time to spend, much time to spend on that aspect yet. But I'm hoping, to develop this, because to me, it's also, part of of my experience that I can share with those schools,
So what's the strongest module, do you think?
The strongest module in the sense of technology, or the benefit?
Well, the benefit, yeah. Where do you see yourself as being, hey, this is what's really good about our offering?
Yeah, that's the integration of all the modules. because that's really going to allow, schools to enter data once, or allow parents to enter data and maintain, accurate information, and everybody will have access to accurate and live information at the, from wherever their role is. So that integration component is really essential.
So I'm going to ask you a challenge question. So in my experience, saving half a person never happens.
Yes.
You don't save half a person. Maybe that person does something else, or they're more effective at their job, but you rarely save that half a person that you promised that you're going to save.
Yeah.
How do you see the benefit realistically flowing to the bottom line of a school?
Well, I think, so there's 2 points to my answer. One is from a financial standpoint. Currently, the schools are spending, quite a bit of money on all those different platforms that they have to use. So the integration of our product, will save them money on that, in that way. But also the time they will save will go directly into spending time with the the students, the teachers, the parents. So, that's hard to quantify, but that's what really makes the success of a school.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Everybody's going to be back in about 10 seconds, and then we'll go to round robin Q&A.
Okay.
Taking the notes, which does that.
That's still too short a time.
Oh, you guys always complain about not enough time. All right, so welcome back, everyone. We'll go around to each of the rooms, and we'll go around twice. So if you would, make one suggestion, ask one question, and then save the second one for the second go around. If you want to ask a quick follow-up, that's great. So let's start with group number 1, Cindy, Michelle, Monica, Jin. What have you got?
I'll take it, and then anybody else can jump in if they want to. I think our biggest concern with the pitch was it didn't give us the problem that she's trying to solve. It was in there, but it's not specifically coming out. And that's a real important point to make first off, in terms of what is it that I'm actually solving for, and how is that different from what the solutions have been up to this point. That generally is like the very first thing when I'm working with people with pitches is what problem are you solving? So there was a lot of discussion around what we thought the problem might be, or different aspects of the problem, but really, truly what is the problem that you're solving? Anything else? Anybody else want to say?
Any comments or concerns, Dominique?
No, thank you for the, for your feedback. I'm making notes, so I will make sure to address those points. Yes, thank you.
All right, group number 2. So this is Ari, Dwight, Greg, Uri, and Mark. Don't be shy.
Good morning, Dominique. It's Greg Marvin. Good to see you this morning. Dominique and I are working on the CED VMS presentation for later this month. Dominique, I was trying to be a person on the fly on the wall and hear what others were saying, since I'm already familiar with your product and your pitch. The feedback that we got from the other folks on the team here was that they'd like to see a little bit more on the timeline. You talk about the fact you started a year ago, and it may be helpful to show a little bit more of the of the backstory in terms of when you started and a little bit maybe of bootstrap funding that you've contributed thus far. Kind of shows some equity in the game. Another comment that came up, and a couple of folks commented that they agreed, was your 2028 exit. I think it seems a long way off. In truth, hearing as many pitches as I have, it's good to know you have an exit plan. You're thinking about that end of the spectrum as well, because investors will want to get their money back at some point or another. But the short of it is that the gap in there seemed to be a little bit too substantial, and people had trouble with it being so far out. So maybe more information in the middle. I don't want to tell you that you should pull your exit in, but the bottom line is there seemed to be some trouble they had in that connection.
Okay.
I'll save the other comments for second go around.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so let's go to group number 3 on go-to-market. So this is Jacques, Cherie, and Mike.
Hello, Dominique. It's Mike. So we came up with a couple of ideas, bullet points. The first one is need to emphasize more the return on investment strategy. So in your presentation, hit that harder. You know, how is this going to make me money or save me money? You know, break down those money pieces further, and then kind of along those same lines, which was kind of already mentioned, was hit those pain points harder with more slides. You had that one slide where, you know, okay, they're bringing information together from 3 different systems, but I mean, what does that mean? How long does that really take? You know, get in there. You got to convince me as a buyer of this software, you know, how much money is it going to really save me with a real working example, maybe from a past client, maybe with some past quotes, and, you know, the real working example of, you know, the pain points. I've got one more bullet, but I'll save that to the next go around.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we'll move to fundraising. So McKinley and Terry are the only ones in that group who are still with us. So what have you guys got?
Okay, now that I'm unmuted, George. So one of the things we had, first of all, is that McKinley is in the educational biz in public schools, and Tina has an educational background and is a software development manager as well as a parent. So I think it'd be useful for Dominique, if you were to reach out to them as parents of people who are not necessarily part of the Montessori method, but are the kind of people who appreciate what it is that you're trying to do. So that's number one. Number two, the steps that you took in terms of fundraising ideas, I think are good steps, but they need to be persisted with, right? Because you're 10% of the way there. The other thing that's not clear to me is that is how much can you increase the footprint of what you're doing with the funds you have available now? Perhaps there's an intermediate level of things that you can do with $300,000 as opposed to the entire 720. So how can you build the software out? Because you have to build the software out to a certain extent for it to be attractive both to existing Montessori parents, to Montessori schools, and prospective Montessori parents. So answering some of those questions, I think, would help you as well. And I've got a couple of other observations that I'll save for the second go around. Does that make sense, Dominique?
Yes, totally. Thank you. Yeah.
All right, so we'll go to group number 5. So Dominic, Mark, and William.
Yeah, I think our question goes a little bit to Cindy's previous statement about the problem not necessarily being specific enough. I know we're on other topics, but we're kind of looking at it trying to understand how you identify or why you identified Montessori as a niche for this particular product. What is it about the Montessori school that's different from, say, a more traditional private school that makes your products that is specific, that makes your product a specific need, right? What and if there isn't necessarily a difference that you're addressing, why not address the broader market of private schools in general? So can you kind of address what it is about Montessori schools that make your program necessary for what it is that they're doing?
Yes, absolutely. And you want me to answer the question, right?
Please.
Yeah. Well, you know, the Montessori principles have, you know, very specific, a very specific approach and some terminology and a way of doing things that is very different from traditional education, whether public or private. For example, the children stay in the same classroom with the same teacher for 3 years, sometimes 4. So we don't have if you want, a promotion, you know, at the end of each school year. So, you know, just that concept, what I have found in my own experience is that traditional education software developer have a difficult time wrapping their head around it and how to make it work from a technological standpoint. So because of our understanding that is deeper, I believe that we have found the way of making it work for Montessori schools. So that's only one example. You know, in addition, the curriculum is really considered like a continuum. So there is no limitation to what a child can do within, you know, the time that they spend in a classroom. So we have to be able to move along with each child's increased skill level, which requires some flexibility from first of all from the teachers thinking about, you know, what the child needs, but also from the system, the software programs, so that, you know, if I need to have a lesson from a first grade for kindergarten, for example, I need to be able to have that information in my database of curriculum. So these type of things are difficult for traditional education, you know, people to manage and to provide. So
it seems like as a metaphor, it's more of a 3-dimensional tool than a linear tool.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay, excellent.
All right, thank you, Dominique. So let's go back to group number 1. Michelle, Monica, Jean, anything to add to what Cindy asked the first time? Or Cindy, do you want to jump in? I know you had something else.
So just as a point of reference, my son was in the Montessori school with Steph and Seth Curry.
Oh, wow.
We actually know Dell, and we were there. We were like one of the founder parents. So I understand the difference between Montessori. And I think this is really key. But I think one of the things, not necessarily for the pitch, but for you going forward, is you really have to, like what Dominic was saying, narrow down to the person that you're going to be selling to, which is, I'm going to say, is probably the school administrator.
Yes.
Or owner. What is it that they're going to get? What's very different for them? Because I know the Montessori mindset, and they are, as you well know, they're very practical. It's like, if it doesn't do something for me, you know, and it's not practical, I'm not interested. So I would say not necessarily for the pitch as well, but also to you know, just get down in your head what it takes to get somebody to actually pay for it. The other thing is that you had a slide that had all the different costs, but you said, well, I'm charging per student, but there wasn't, unless I missed it, and I may have missed it, a total cost per student, which I think would verify and let people get in their head, especially investors, Okay, so how many students does she have to start making a profit, et cetera, et cetera?
Okay. Great. It wasn't there. You're absolutely right.
Okay, I didn't know. Like,
You didn't miss it.
it's early and I may have missed it.
Hey, thank you, Cindy. I knew there was a reason you came today. All right, so let's go to group 2. So Ari, Dwight, Greg, and Mark. Any follow-ups? Greg, I know you had
I
something
did
else.
have one more, but I thought I'd let the other guys if they had any thoughts.
I think the one thing I'd like to say is when you showed the competitive landscape, I didn't, maybe I missed it, but I didn't actually see where your product, you know, you maybe really highlight what differentiates your product. That was kind of missing.
And I'll just pitch in that the other thing that we chatted about maybe has already been touched on, and that is we wondered where your product is, Dominique, in terms of, are you to wireframe level, or, you know, is there a working prototype? You're talking about 3 beta customers now, and I can't remember whether it was in your presentation this morning or the ones that I've seen that you're hoping to have 10 more customers by sometime later this year. That would imply you've got something or other that you can share with them, and yet you need a large sum of money to develop your product, or maybe for marketing or whatever. It might be helpful to talk about where those funds would be used and where you are technologically. And if you were to receive those funds, what runway does that give you? Does that give you a 12-month runway, an 18-month runway? You know, where are you in terms of that? Obviously, you already have chatted, or you mentioned your profitability would be in 2025. So we figure that money gets you at least to there.
You good, Dominique?
Yes, thank you.
All right, so go to market. So this is Jacques, Cherie, and Mike. Follow-ups, guys?
Yeah, one other thing on our bullet item, I'm going to go ahead and put it in the chat, is a link. There's, and this is just for North Carolina, but the easy part is it's very easy to find these schools and their address. So that's just an example of the Montessori schools in North Carolina. So it would be very easy to, you know, get the marketing material and, you know, do a mass mailing as a start, and then follow that up with calls. And I'll let the rest of the group members add in.
Yeah, so yeah, I agree with Mike, and that's Dominic. What we're saying is you got to define market, so it's pretty much you can go direct marketing, and I would be cautious about spending too much money on multiple channels. So you got, you know, probably all the Montessori school in the US, you know, you can get the name of the administrator, and you can go direct one-on-one. So that was my first point. The second point that, and I'm not familiar with Montessori, but I like someone mentioned, I think Cindy, they're very practical people. Then I would stress the ROI. You know, what's your return on investment, and that's what will speak. That's the first thing I want to know. How much money I'm going to spend, and then you tell me how I'm going to do this with example. The third element that I want, and it's not in our group discussion, but in terms of your presentation, you mentioned some return, some element of the EBITDA and sales and cost. You know, if you were to present this to an investor, for me, I want a 5-year outlook projected P&L, just straight, simple. Put it in a standard chart as we see investment for business. You had some nice little graphic with circle, but again, I think Terry mentioned that it was 8 years. 5 years is usually it's a 5-year P&L projection, cash flow, EBITDA, return on your investment. That's it. And if it's a standard format, any investor will go quickly, will browse, bang, they can see the numbers. So
Yeah, thank you.
you're welcome.
All right, thanks, guys. Speaking of numbers, McKinley and Terry, any follow-ups?
Yeah, I have one. McKinley, do you have one? You can go first if you'd like.
No, I don't have one. Go ahead, please.
Okay. So the follow-up that I would have is Dominique, between yourself and the 3 Beta Montessori schools, you have 4 heads of school. They represent the people who are your prototypical people that you're going to be selling your solution towards. So I assume that your 3 betas have the ability to articulate the value, the ROI, whatever the points of value are, from their point of view, because they've gone through the beta and they have the ability to say that to other Montessori heads of school, because those are the decision makers as you expand your universe, right? So I would make sure that they're all aligned with you around the value proposition, number 1. And number 2, that you not try to sell one-on-one to any Montessori school by yourself. Bring your beta customers with you to those meetings. Because if they see the value, they have the ability to advocate for you.
Absolutely. Great.
All right, thank you, guys. And then last but not least, group number 5. So this is Dominic, Mark, and William. Any follow-ups, guys?
Yeah, we had some additional conversation, touches a bit about what Mr. Marvin had discussed. And that was, so you've got 3 beta schools, and you know, how will you measure that performance, or you know, in regards to process improvement? I came from automotive, so you're playing with students' education. If you make a change, how do you track that improvement, and then broadcast that your product is an enhancement to what else is on the market? So just of interest in our group of how that's done, and the process improvement via a Kaizen process or some other way may be of interest to future customers.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Great, thank you.
All right, well, thanks, guys. That wraps up our Q&A. So Dominic, over to you.
Yeah, we're gonna do community announcements now. And since we got kind of a light crowd today, we'll kind of open up to the floor. I'll start with a couple of announcements because these are a little time sensitive. The first one is that applications are being taken right now for Innovate Durham cohort 4. Those are that is open through February 15th. I did post a link to that in the chat. So if you're interested in the Innovate Durham program, go ahead and click on that link and see what that entails. But like I said, they're opening up their 4th cohort for the spring. And then also the spring 2021 grant cycle is open through March 1st. You have to have your applications in by 5 p.m. on March 1st, both for the $10,000 micro grants as well as the seed grants of $50,000. Anybody else have any community announcements they'd like to add to that? No? Okay, fair enough. One other thing, just go back to our usual asks here at 1 Million Cups. We're always looking for presenters to come and present at our meetings. So again, if you have a company, I know several of you do, that have presented here in the past or are already scheduled to present at some time in the future, if you know anybody else who is also the founder of a startup company or knows somebody else who is, please let them know that we're here and that we can help. Invite them to a meeting, let them know that they can apply to present, and we'll invite them to a meeting. We'd love to meet those folks. And if we don't have anybody else who is looking to make a community announcement today, we'll go ahead and open up the floor to more questions for Dominique and just kind of do a virtual chat around the coffee pot.